Shopify Customer Privacy API Technical Audit. When Shopify merchants install a consent banner, they often assume the job is done. But there's a critical layer most CMPs miss. Shopify's own Customer Privacy API, a platform-native interface that controls how the storefront's core services handle visitor data. If your CMP doesn't integrate with this API, your pixels and analytics may still fire without permission, regardless of what the banner shows. Today, we'll audit exactly how FitConsent integrates with the Shopify Customer Privacy API, verifying in real time, using browser developer tools, that our consent signals directly control Shopify's native data processing permissions under two separate compliance frameworks, GDPR and CCPA. The Shopify Customer Privacy API lives at window.Shopify.customerPrivacy. This is not a third-party script. It's a native object Shopify injects into every storefront. It gates four processing purposes: analytics, marketing, sale of data, and preferences. Any CMP claiming Shopify compliance must call setTrackingConsent on this object when a visitor makes their choice. Shopify's web pixel system reads directly from this API. Pixels only fire when the relevant permission has been granted here. A banner that injects GTM signals but never calls setTrackingConsent leaves a real compliance gap at the platform level. FitConsent closes that gap. Let's prove it. Opening the FitConsent app in the Shopify admin, the first stop is General Settings, where the legislative framework, geo-targeting, and consent behaviors are all configured. The framework selector is the key control. GDPR activates opt-in mode, all purposes blocked by default. CCPA activates opt-out mode, tracking permitted. Auto applies the right framework by location. Geo-targeting controls banner visibility, globally or restricted to specific regions. Appearance settings let you configure colors, fonts, and button labels to match your store's branding. We're now on the demo storefront. The store is password protected. The password is FitConsent. The FitConsent consent banner is already visible on the landing page. Page loaded. Opt-in rules. All processing blocked. DevTools open. Querying window. Shopify.customerPrivacy. Analytics processing allowed. False. Marketing allowed. False. Sale of data allowed. False. Preferences processing allowed. False. All four denied. Pre-consent state enforced. The visitor now submits their granular choices through the FitConsent banner, accepting analytics, marketing, and sale of data, but explicitly declining preferences. Each toggle is set independently. FitConsent translates those choices into a direct setTrackingConsent. Call. Analytics true. Marketing true. Sale of data true. Preferences false. Platform-level enforcement. Analytics processing allowed. True. Marketing allowed. True. Sale of data allowed. True. Preferences processing allowed. False. Analytics and marketing unblocked. Preferences denied. Now let's switch to the other model. The California Consumer Privacy Act, reinforced by CPRA in 2023, operates on an opt-out framework. Unlike GDPR, tracking and data sharing are permitted the moment a visitor arrives. The banner's role is not a consent gate. It's a notice of collection with a clear path to opt-out. CPRA also extended the opt-out obligation beyond selling to include sharing. Installing a Meta Pixel, TikTok Pixel, or Google Ads remarketing tag now constitutes sharing under CPRA, even without payment. The required link is now do not sell or share my personal information. CPRA adds a second opt-out path that requires no banner interaction, the global privacy control. When FitConsent detects the GPC signal broadcast by a visitor's browser, enabled by default in Brave and DuckDuckGo, it denies all sale of data consent before any script loads and skips the banner entirely. CPRA mandates this signal be honored automatically. This is applied before the first pixel has a chance to fire. CPRA requires opt-in consent for visitors under 16, not just opt-out access. FitConsent's Minor Age Gate automates this for California visitors. 16 or older follows the standard CCPA flow. 13 to 15 must actively accept before tracking starts. and under 13 blocks, all tracking for the session. For visitors without GPC, the storefront loads with processing permitted by default. Switching to auto and reloading confirms it. Sale of data allowed. Returns true. Data sharing is permitted. The CCPA notice banner visible as a notice at collection, not an opt-in gate. The visitor clicks "Do not sell or share my personal information" link, a permanent CPRA requirement. The FitConsent Preference Center opens with the sale of data toggle already preset to off. The visitor confirms, and FitConsent fires setTrackingConsent with sale of data set to false. And the API state updates. Sale of data allowed, now false. The data layer confirms every other consent mode v2 signal remains granted. Add storage, add user data, add personalization, analytics storage, functionality storage, and personalization storage because analytics, marketing, and preferences were all kept on by the visitor. The opt-out is surgically precise. Only sale of data is blocked. Every opt-out event is logged with a timestamp, visitor geography, and GPC status in the FitConsent audit trail, satisfying CPRA's documented opt-out requirement. This audit demonstrates two things. First, that FitConsent correctly enforces the GDPR Opt-In model, blocking all processing by default and unlocking it only on explicit consent. Second, that it correctly enforces the CCPA Opt-Out model, honoring data sale opt-outs the moment a visitor requests them. In both cases, the mechanism is the same, a direct setTrackingConsent, call into Shopify's own platform API. Not a workaround, not a GTM-only patch, but a first-class integration that gates web pixels at the source. FitConsent is ready to deploy on your Shopify store.